What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of 10K on the Bay, my journey to 10,000 live listings. Tonight is 6 tips with Luke at 6 p.m. Central, and today we're going to go over 6 tips on dealing with the ever-changing eBay and Amazon. The policies are always going to change. I don't think that's something that's ever going to stop. So these are just 6 preemptive things that we suggest you do to prepare yourself for just the constant environment of changes. And e-commerce is still relatively new, guys, so going to continuously change. Luke, why don't you introduce yourself and just go straight into the first tip?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Chris. So as I said, I'm Luke for Endless Entrepreneurs, my YouTube channel. I'm a part-time eBay seller. I work full-time in the finance world. I've been selling on eBay for quite a few years now, and I have had my ups and downs just like everyone else. So this topic actually hits home. So I'll just jump right in. This is one of the things that I was very guilty of not doing until pretty much this last week, and that's kind of where the show topic started to evolve from, is evaluating your strategy and business processes around your eBay, store in general. And, just to be very specific in like how you approach your listings, maintain your listings, updating your prices, updating your keywords, having a process for touching each of those active listings. To be quite honest, I've been subpar at best. Probably horrible is the more accurate representation throughout my time selling eBay. And it's been something that has completely turned my store around this last week, and focusing on looking at all those little aspects, making sure I have a routine around touching each listing and refreshing the keywords and the pricing and things like that. I just think that's so important with an ever-changing platform like eBay that you have something like that, so you're noticing the trends around that.
No, I think it's always important to constantly tweak. If you get in the habit of adjusting constantly, the only thing constant is change. So I think that's really, really good advice. And it's a little bit contrary to my first tip, which is I think that everyone should definitely not immediately jump in to a new feature as soon as it comes out. So it's like in the new iOS pops onto your phone, you don't necessarily want to immediately download it because it's going to be the time when it has the highest bugs. So I would wait a little bit. For me, just as an example, the Markdown Manager changed a little bit. It moved from its own standalone thing into the Promotions tab, and is a little bit wonky, and it took me a little bit of time to get the Sales Event plus Markdown feature. And so all these changes, plus there was a little bit of confusion with order discounts being the same thing as Markdown Manager, and it was a little bit fuzzy. So I actually decided to not run any sales until 2018. I'm just going to let it settle down, price things without a fake sale or without marking things up competitively with the best offer still, and that seems to be working just fine. But I think sometimes we're always so eager to download the new to-do list or the new feature. And I think you should integrate things slowly into your system instead of trying every single feature, because you won't know which feature is working and which one isn't.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, that's just pretty much that's what I've decided to do as well. And Chris and I talk a lot offline here just about general strategy and how we manage our eBay stores and such. But one thing that I made the same choice is I competitively marked all my pricing, and I'm gonna just chill on sales until they be. I don't know if I'm gonna wait till 2018, but I'm definitely waiting a month or two. Like, it's just too much change all at once. I needed to figure out for me what my store was doing and not add another complexity to it. And like how long were you using Markdown Manager for, Chris? Like pretty much since the day you started selling?
Just the first day.
Yeah, same here. And so like I don't know, it's so weird when I took a step back and was like, wait, I don't necessarily have to use that to make sales. And you start repricing, doing things, and then your listings get a little more fresh in the system because you're repricing, and like there's a kind of a lot of added benefit for taking that step back, and then you can jump into it when you're ready for it. But yeah, it was so weird for me though, because that's all I've ever used. Like I'm like, what do I do without Markdown Manager?
I know. No, I mean, I got started watching Casey Rockstar Flipper's channel, and he always had a Markdown. You reran it every 48 hours, and that seemed like a good idea to me because the constant sale definitely does work. Also, I want to shout out Ryan and Allison on the Rally Roots channel. I did not realize they were going live at the same time. Luke and I go live at the same. We tried to do it every single week on Sundays at this time, and it's their 1-year anniversary, and they're awesome vloggers, and just want to shout them out.
Yeah, absolutely. They're incredible sellers. They share a lot of good content with the community. There's no doubt about it. So,
And they actually do vlogs, which is super hard. You know, we're Luke and I are pretty busy. We barely have time to do just these live talks, which are fun. But you know, eventually, I think we'll do some more vlogs just because they're so much fun when we have more time.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All right.
Okay, so let me. Or is it my turn?
I think it's my second one now.
Okay, your second one.
So this is something that I started adopting pretty much early on, probably January, February of this year when I really made my business plan. And that's to dedicate a very small percentage of your time to learning something new that you don't already do, and specifically around niches. I think it's super, super important that you're continually learning new niches, and it doesn't mean you're going to stick with them. I think this is where everyone gets confused. It's like, oh, well, I don't want to totally shift gears. Like, I'm focused, I'm all in on these couple things, I'm growing a business. And I think that's fantastic. I think 90% of your time should be on that. But you need to also kind of hedge and take like 10%. And that's what I've been doing. And, you know, I tried women's clothes for a little bit. It didn't stick. I didn't like it very much. You know, I was trying estate sales with some more hard good things. I'm starting to like that a little more. And like, just take that 10% to start learning new niches so you don't get boxed in. I see a lot of people get really narrowly focused on one niche. They learn all about it. They maximize it. And then the niche starts to shrink and they go, oh crap, because they're stuck with all this stuff that's not diversified and they've had no escape plan when that happens. And so I think just taking that small hedge, doesn't have to be a lot of your time, but just a little bit to continue to learn new things, I think is huge.
That's right. And that goes into my second tip, which is to constantly try different platforms. I think this is important too, because you learn different things. As an example, on Poshmark, you enter in the suggested MSRP every time when you list an item. So instead of using Markdown Manager, you can just say this Tommy Hilfiger sweater new is $56, but you know, pre-owned through Poshmark, it's $13 or something. That'll give people an idea and a reference point, and that's on every single listing. It's an option. So if I started adding that to men's clothing, and it's been working just fine. I try to get an idea of the rough MSRP, even though people aren't searching keywords for $56. They're going to see it in the title and get an idea of what the item should sell for. And they can see that value. And the idea is when you make sale, it's when value exceeds price. I think that's important, guys, because you'll see people who sell things for more money than you do, the same exact price. And a lot of it's because people just see more value in the same item.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's such a, I mean, you hit on two huge things there. It's one, presentation of the item, right? The perception of here's your MSRP, here's what I'm giving it to you for a use. I'm not trying to gouge you because clearly there's a huge canyon between the retail price and the used price. So I thought that was an awesome point. And the second being that, you know, the perceived value, and I talk about this, you know, whenever I can with pricing, it's like you can have the same exact item and one can be $10 higher. And a buyer, a lot of the times, looks at that one that's $10 higher and goes, it's better. Like they just look at it and go, it's better. I'm paying more for it. It has to be more quality. I feel better about making that purchase because I'm spending more money on it, so there's more value there. Rather than sometimes they look at that high-end item that's really cheap and they go, man, what's wrong with it? I'm not seeing. Like, what are they trying to pull over on me here? They're trying to unload that. And I think that happens all the time with used clothing specifically. You know, because a lot of people are like, well, how do you sell it for this much? I'm like, presentation, perceived value. I don't know. There's a lot of things that play into that. But I thought both are great points, Chris.
I just want to make one more point before we move on to your next point, which is the different platforms I would definitely use are Instagram, because if you're on Instagram, you get instant feedback. You post something that you just found, you just got a haul. Shout out to Stacy in the chat. She started on Instagram just recently. I shouted her out. She had 500 new followers, and then she made 3 sales. That's just that shows you don't have to be doing it a long time. She just barely started, and she already had 3 sales on Instagram. Make sure you're consistently posting stuff, and then hashtag the item. So if you have a Vineyard Vines pullover, do hashtag Vineyard Vines, and people who are looking for it will find your pullover and say, interesting. And there's also no fees. So if you sell on Facebook Marketplace or Instagram, a lot of the time, since you're a real person on there, ideally, they're just going to send you the money, friends and family, which is tremendously different, literally 13% cheaper off the bat. And then, again, each time you sell on a different platform, it makes eBay, if it's your main platform, stronger.
Yeah, I totally agree. And honestly, that's probably one of the weakest parts of my business is that I don't focus on that at all. And that's something I have to improve and change for sure. All right. Tip 3. We're flying through these here. So and this is another one of this. I mean, Chris is probably a prime example of this week. So watching, I think it's really important to watch other sellers who are successful and kind of sampling the different features of their business that fit for you and can help improve your business. And I think there's a really important differentiation here, and I want to make that clear, is I don't think it's a good idea to look at a seller and mimic everything they do. I think it's a good idea to look at multiple sellers that are successful and take the things that work for you. Because I think that in reselling specifically, everyone's businesses are really crafted for their geographic region, right? For their time constraints, for what they want out of their business. Like, there's so many different factors that change the model of what you're doing based on your objectives, your location. I think that modeling something one for one is a really bad idea, but I think modeling a feature or an aspect or a practice one for one is a fantastic idea. And, a prime example this week was I switched all my items to charge shipping. And that was after probably a 2-month span here. I've been watching a lot of really successful sellers switch to that model, and it's been working for them. And it's not like I don't need to have the pride of like, well, I thought of it. No, like I watched other people prove the concept, and I made the switch, and it's corrected my sales. And I do attribute a lot of that to that switch. But it's like, watch other sellers. Like, don't be afraid to watch what they're doing and sample the little things that are working.
No, that's super key. I pick and choose all the time. Consider eBay a cafeteria of ideas, and you can just put on your tray whatever you want to do. It's different for where you live, different for what you source. And one thing that I want to point out that is tremendously different is people on the East Coast sell more to people on the East Coast, and people on the West Coast sell more to people on the West Coast because of shipping time. So if you guys have 1-day shipping or same-day shipping and you live on one of the coasts, or actually anywhere in the US, you may have a couple of sales just where your region is. People will pay a few bucks more just if they're using the guaranteed delivery chart, which I actually do not know how to use as a consumer. But I can imagine $3-4 different, but they get it 3-4 days earlier is a no-brainer.
Yeah, that's a really, I didn't even think about that. I mean, that was such a simple statement of just, hey, East Coast sells more to East Coast, West Coast sells more to West Coast because of handling time. That's not even crossed my mind, but it's so true. I mean, it's absolutely true.
On an item, let's say like a tuxedo shirt, someone's probably buying it for an event. Maybe it's last minute.
Yeah.
Right. So
it is. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Is it me or you?
I think it's you now. That was my third one.
Keep track of this. Okay, let's see here. Let me see. My last one. No, it's your third one, I think.
No, I just gave my third one. It's all you, man.
All right. So this is the third one I think is probably my best tip ever, which is focusing on quality and quantity of items instead of new features. So new features are going to come and go, right? So they're going to come and always go. But the high quality items, it doesn't matter what platform it does. Like, for example, if you had the hottest Christmas toy, like a Hatchimal, like from last year, and they were super, super hot, you could sell instantly on eBay, on Amazon. You could take a picture of it in the back of your trunk in dim lighting and still sell it with just the word Hatchimal Owl. 2 words in the title, exactly what people are looking for. They can still find it, still sells instantly. So if you focus your time on finding good stuff instead of features, you'll be better off. Spend a small percentage of your time adjusting eBay, and then the majority of your time sourcing better quality items and higher quantities of those items, because that's much, every trick in the book is not better than stuff people want.
Oh, that is dead on and a great tip. I think just to tag onto that too is when he talks about, right, everyone would love to find the amazing items all the time, but he hit on 2 things. He said high quality and quantity, right? So maybe your area dictates that you have a lot of medium quality items. Well, start doubling down on quantity instead of trying to play with your markdown manager, right? Like, if in all that time you're playing with your markdown manager or the new one, you're able to list twice as many items or even a third more, your sales are going to skyrocket because you're still listing decent quality items and you're listing a ton of them and a lot more opportunity for buyers to buy. So yeah, I mean, I think there's a time and a place for adjusting features. And I think that you need to have a ritual for, updating your things, clearly, because my store got a kick in the face because I was lazy and didn't have good practices of doing that. But it's like, you need to put the effort in. Like, you got to put the effort in. You got to continually learn and get better and spend the effort getting items in.
And that's something I'm going to shout out, like Hustlebee in the chat, who has a store of mostly premium items, trying to get an ASP of $100. And what happens is sometimes if you keep sourcing the same exact item, you sort of cannibalize your own sales. So, I mean, I think this is the case possibly with Luke. He bought a pallet of all the same items. That's not necessarily all. I mean, maybe the same pool of customers is buying this different sizes and styles that he has. So when you add more quantity, if it's not in a complementary or different category, sometimes your sell-through rate stays the same, or which is very frustrating if, for example, you go from 1,000 listings to 1,500 listings and your sales don't go up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that you described exactly what I've been going through. And I think it comes to that diversity point of like, I've lined up some other bulk purchases and I'm making sure that they're completely different genres, right? Like completely different genres of types of items, still kind of in that clothing space, but I need to make sure that as I'm increasing quantity that they're complementary. Like you said, I think that was a great way to put it, is you want complementary items that aren't cannibalizing each other. So it was a great point.
Like, and as an example, I think that Luke and I, since we both sell men's dress shirts, we should private label probably some cufflinks and put them in the description and put, hey, if you want an extra pair of cufflinks, there's free shipping on those. Why not? Why not increase the value of our price for no extra effort? You know, these are things that you can do that should increase your sell-through rate and increase your average order size. And neither of us do that, and neither of us do thank you notes with codes to get people back into our store. We're really slacking on doing the things that make more with what you have instead of always adding stuff.
No, it's very, very, very true. Very true.
Let's see. Greg says that he opted in a guaranteed delivery and his sales tanked. I don't necessarily think that guaranteed delivery would do much. The only thing that I know that it does is it forces immediate payment, because obviously you need to pay right away if you want to deliver at a certain time. And for me, removing immediate payment required was very painful because I have people now that take 10 days to pay, but that I have more sales. So overall, I've had a good experience with removing immediate payment, which means I do not have guaranteed delivery, or I turned it off. I don't have that option, and my sales have been fine. But I do think guaranteed delivery is good. Should be good.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I have guaranteed delivery on, I believe. Well, at least I opted in and I was approved. I never have taken the time to switch it off, so I believe it's still on, which is very interesting because I haven't even thought about that, whether that's an impact or not. Wow, that's something to think about a little bit. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I have thought a bit about just in general, like with managing my current inventory versus listing new inventory. And I've been purging a lot of my old inventory, just trying to get out a lot of that old stock, freshen up the quality of my inventory, and just, trying to improve the overall presentation of my store. Because I think like when you go a really long time, especially I have good till canceled listings, when you go a really long time without freshening and purging some of that old stuff, like I think it can really weigh you down. And I also, here's just another tip that I'm pretty sure was dinging me pretty bad. I had quite a few good till cancel items that had no UPC with them. And it was for a brand that now requires it. And I think when eBay made the switch in their algorithm to requiring it, there's like, you kind of skate under the radar because your good till cancel doesn't technically relist. And when you relist is when they flag it and say you have to enter it again, right? When you try to relist. But I think that it was still punishing your store because it didn't apply it. And because as soon as the other night when I was doing all the updates, I flipped those, I added the UPCs, went back to my inventory, found them, added them in. Like I've had no issues ever since. And like, I really think there's a direct correlation. If you've ever selected does not apply for something they require now, like I would really go into your inventory, evaluate that, and make sure you add it. And I'm kind of curious with Hustlebee because he sells a lot of Nike products and different things like that, if he's experienced that at all, or if he's always entered the UPC since he started.
I think almost everyone has a few listings that they didn't enter the UPC. They entered in the does not apply, especially if you list from mobile and you scan it, it pulls up, and then you do the listing or you finish it at home and you pack the item away. And then when you try to submit it, it says you need to add it in and it's not convenient. So you just put does not apply. Those ones are starting to be filtered out potentially. Also, anyone that had like the Nike Cole Haan shoes.
Oh yeah,
which tons of people had, and those are probably not selling because they're lower on the ranking because of the potential keyword spamming. They're cracking down on people falsely putting different brands in the title, so definitely need to be careful when you're doing that. We do have also Ahmad Yassin in the chat who does a lot of retail arbitrage also, just like Ken, has a very high average selling price also. And I took a look at his store, and it's a nice variety. Which brings me to one more thing that somebody mentioned in the chat, which is Stacy Denny was saying most people have secret niches. I 100% agree with that. And when you're creeping on people's stores and you look at everything, you'll see like they're selling Halloween bowls or something, and you're like, Halloween bowls. No one talks about that on eBay or YouTube, and you'll see it like that's potentially a dollar store item that they're buying for $1 and selling for 12 plus shipping. That's not uncommon, especially with seasonality.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a great tip. I haven't even thought about that.
Yeah, that mentioned recycling for reselling says that happens with Kohan Nike as well. So it is a little bit fuzzy, especially, I have one that's Maria Sharapova Nike that's keeps getting flagged.
Yeah, and it's frustrating with the Cole Haan because I had a pair of Cole Haan ballet flats that were Nike Air, and like it's right on at Nike Air, and it's just frustrating that you can't even accurately describe your item like that. That frustrates me to no end. It really drives me nuts.
I think I'm gonna keep Cole Haan.
That's what I did.
Nike.
I did. I kept Cole Haan and dropped it because it's like, but it sucks because the Cole Haan Nike Air combo sells like 5 times better than any of the just basic Cole Haan stuff. That's what's so frustrating. And I used to mark those up like 25%, and now I feel like I can't because it's not going to be found that way.
That is a great point. When you can take advantage of 2 categories, that was my most popular interview is the one with the straight 8. And that gentleman pays for a second category on every single listing. Now you would think, oh wow, that's a waste of money. Just fine. He did 95,000 last month. So I think you may think, oh, I don't want to pay the extra a few cents for an extra category, but potentially he's doubling his traffic.
Yeah, that's true.
You have no idea.
Yeah, that's really true. I mean, and that's what it's all about. It's all about eyeballs, right? I mean, most people scrolling are kind of impulsive buyers on the look for something, and if you can jump into 2 categories and get in front of somebody, much better chance of making a sale, without doubt.
We have Duncan in the chat in Australia. Very cool business model. If you guys want to check out his store, he'll put it, I'm sure, in the chat. And he sells what appears to me eBay to eBay flipping only and does a high volume. So if you want to stay at the comfort of your home and you have the right filters and the right secret niches that you don't share with people on Instagram, I'm sure you could buy what you want online and then resell it online just by knowing the difference in your specific niche.
Yeah, no. I've tried with the whole eBay to eBay flip. I'm not patient with it, which is I would love to see someone's model like that. I'll have to check out Duncan for sure.
I'm just going to give you guys one thing that works. Or I don't know if it works or not, but I'm starting to use the 5-minute journal. And on eBay, it's $6 more than the Amazon Prime. I guarantee you someone's just drop shipping it off of Amazon, because why not? It's going to arrive faster than you can ship it yourself anyway, and it's a very popular best-selling book. So if you guys, look at drop shipping, you can, it's definitely risky, but you can, eBay to Amazon, Amazon to eBay arbitrage for people who, if you are trying to give yourself an excuse for not getting started, if you have no capital, that doesn't require any capital. So you just need to be really careful.
No, that's very true. I have no experience at drop shipping, but I know lots of successful people who do drop ship. So,
also, this is interesting. Recycling by reselling says when he or she is creeping somebody's store, they check zip code, and I think that's important because if you're in a rare category of popular stuff, I think location matters.
Yeah, I do too. Location definitely dictates it, and a lot of times the location could be because they're out of that item or those types of items in that area, which creates the demand too. That's the whole nature of retail arbitrage in general from Amazon.
The more sophisticated you guys get with arbitrage, the more these things matter because it gives you an advantage that's beyond just dropping the price. Anybody can drop their price, but imagine you have your item priced at 17 with 2 days handling time, and somebody has their item priced at 24, same day handling time, and they're on a different coast than you, and they get the sale because it's going to arrive faster. So that's scary.
Hmm.
You could be cheaper and closer and lose the deal.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of different ways you can compete. I mean, it goes back to our whole value conversation, right?
Wow, I didn't even realize this. If you search in your specific zip code, you can find out what's available in your area. I've never tried that.
I've never tried that either. Gonna have to now.
Amazing.
We get off here.
Jinx. Yeah, everyone said that. Yeah, I'm gonna definitely try that. That sounds very interesting. Um, because um, I have seen, let's see, what is it? Yeah, there's people who have very specific routes when they go, and I've
Mhm.
seen that. I've seen people like, as an example, this is not the right thing to do because your thrift store will get mad at you. But I've seen people move, um, let's say all the men's sweatshirts, they will put a divider in it, like a pink hanger or something on it, so that they can quickly recognize the next day what's new and what's not new. So I don't know how to do that. I don't think there's like probably a fancier way of figuring out what's what. But if you have your route and trying to save a few minutes and you're trying to hit 15 stores in 4 hours or something, there's little secrets and tips and things that make your sourcing more efficient.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a great way to do that. It's tough with our Goodwills around here, so they actually do a really good job of. They constantly have one or two people roaming the floors, always cleaning all of the racks, and so they're always, swapping them out, making sure they're color coded, making sure the sizes are right, making sure the sizes next to each other, the types. So like that would work to a degree, but I think they mix it up so much that I'm not sure you could consistently do that day over day.
Also, you guys are going to want to pay attention to um, sizing. And I think that that's something interesting because for me, J. Crew sells really well in small sizes, even though people say, oh, I don't, I never pick up anything if it's small or extra small. But for some reason in J. Crew, even though like I think J. Crew fits small to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're talking small and extra small fits even smaller. It fits like an extra, extra small, still selling well for me. Maybe because a few people pick it up.
I mean, there's definitely little niches based on size for sure. Oh, sorry. And there's definitely niches with size and brand correlations. I think that there are certain genres of people who buy certain brands, and I think they gravitate towards based on size more than anything else, without a doubt. Like small Ralph Lauren shirts, like just from like a commodity standpoint, like yeah, right. Plus size Ralph Lauren shirts fly off the shelf for me. They always have. They've never stopped. So I mean, just that's just the way it goes with that brand.
That's a great point. I am selling a lot of jeans um, in lots. So
Really?
I've never tried that before until recently. But obviously, when you're at a thrift store and you find three or four of the same brand, it's the same person donating them usually. So you
Yep.
can get, 3 times 36 by 32 jeans for $50 instead of 15 each or whatever, free shipping. And they seem to do well for me. Plus, it increases your average order. Use one shipping seems to work just well.
No, that's a great point. I do a lot of lotting of polo shirts. So I'll do like Brooks Brothers ones, I'll do Nike like dry fit ones. Like stuff I wouldn't sell on their own, I'll pick up in multiples and lot. And I do have a lot of good experience with that. A lot of times with people, especially on the men's side, like I don't know, do you a lot of them mostly on the men's side?
Only the men's side.
Yeah, like the men's side, the lotting items just seems to work great for me when it comes to that type of stuff. Just because I think most people are just looking to knock out they're shopping for a wardrobe for a week or two, right? Trying to lay out their dress clothes or whatever for the job, and they just want to one, two, three purchases. They don't want to deal with sorting through thousands of listings to do it.
I just want to make a quick point from Ahmad says that location matters for sourcing as well. In less populated areas, items are way cheaper. I think he's referring to high-end items are way cheaper. And I find that is true. Here in California, the cheap items are really cheap because people can afford the nice items here. But in the middle of the country, I know tons of people that make a fortune on you'll see an iPhone 7 go on sale for $100 because they've sold zero. They can't sell any of them because no one can afford an iPhone 7 in that area. They'll discount it by 80%, and people are getting 7, 8 phones or whatever because of the market of that area. So that's something interesting here. What's always on sale is coats. Nobody wears coats here. So the good place to get a coat would be here where it's always warm.
Interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought about that. we have enough seasonality here that it doesn't drive that. I'll say a lot of like we get a ton of mall brands like dirt cheap. Like we get flooded with not like Kohl's. I mean like upper end Macy's brands, right? Like Belk, like those type of stuff. We're flooded with those. We have a lot of working professionals in Charlotte, and so like I tend to see tons of those type of brands just packed in the racks here. And then we do have some high end stuff, but I wouldn't say I get a ton of home runs. I mean, people watch my haul videos. Like I find a lot of like that middle ground of inventory. A lot of bread and butter type stuff.
And I think it's important, guys, to realize that consistency is key. I see a lot of stores that sell the same thing over and over and over again. Like I see women, this makes me want, I just bought a really nice women's mannequin because I see sellers that sell the same kinds of dresses over and over and over and over again. Like as an example, a solid color Banana Republic dress, I have seen sell for $20 plus shipping thousands of times in tons of people's stores. And that's an item that's kind of boring. But if you can get it for $10 or less and it sells for $20 plus shipping quickly, that's a bread and butter item that you could just continuously resell. So, it's interesting to look at consistency. If you're constantly listing items that move quickly, sell-through rate, I think, is the magic button that people that seem to scale quickly, they don't necessarily have high margin. They just have a high percentage of sell-through.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also think that when you look at that type of model, you just have to make sure that you A, have a steady supply of it, and B, you have a scalable way to list a lot of it, right? And when you can do that, it's great. And one of the bottlenecks that I ran into just, over the last couple of months is just how to scale with by myself, right? And it goes back to almost your tip about picking quality is I either have to go to a quantity scale that allows me to list a lot fast, meaning 10 of one item, one listing for 10 items, right? Or I need to switch to a high quality scale where I'm listing, increase my average sell price a ton. And this is funny. It always goes back to the same economics kind of equation. But I definitely think from a cost effectiveness, like I'm definitely gravitating towards more of the bulk buy side of things, just because the multi-quantity listing is just so much easier. Like not doing one-offs I never thought it would be like where I gravitate towards, but that's kind of where I'm finding myself.
Yeah, it's so hard to scale unique items because, this is something I want to bring up and hopefully people in the chat can chime in. When you're trying to hire people to do tasks, it's going to be a different quality than the way that you do it. Not necessarily better or worse. Like I'll give you an example. For me, my photographer takes better photos than I do because he knows how to adjust the white balance. I'm not adjusting white balance on my camera when I'm taking photographs, so I'm not as good at photographing as he is. My lister forgets keywords and doesn't fill out all the item specifics. I'm not going to fire her over one error. Like if she didn't put regular instead of petite, I'm not like, you're gone. I can tell her, but because she's paid per item, I can see her working at her own pace, trying to make it work, and the quality is going to differ. Whereas if you scale wholesale, multiple quantity items, you can do all the listing yourself. You don't need a lister. That makes a ridiculously huge difference.
Yeah, I mean, of all the things like the Ella Bean order that I did, I ordered those 3,000 pair of pants. It was like there's been a lot of good, there's been a lot of bad, but there's been a ton of learning. And the one thing that's really stuck out to me, well, two things is, A, what do I want out of my eBay business, right? Do I want my eBay business to be my whole business, or do I want my eBay business to drive a different business? And for me, when I chose the route of I want my eBay business to drive a different business and kind of gravitating towards that real estate side, is I want scalable process. And scalable process comes from, like you just said, you hit it perfectly, right? I can take the quality and take the wide range of quality and shrink it to a narrow scope by going multi-quantity with workers, whereas I cannot do that with unique items. There's just too many complexities to it. So that's just something I've been toying around with, and especially with all the different moves I'm making and trying to consolidate inventory and looking at the pipeline of goods is like those are decisions you have to make that align with you. And I don't think there's a right model. Like there's just a right model for you. And I don't know how you feel about this, Chris. I want to kind of throw it back to you. Like over the last year, I think we've all interacted with tons of different resellers. Like I've interacted with so many people with different models, different lives, different things they do. And Like that's been the one thing that's been apparent to me is just like there is a right way for each person in their situation. And I don't know, how do you feel about that?
I think there's a new wave of resellers that has a mixture of products in their store. Like when I first started, like just as an example, I would follow States Place or Rockstar Flipper or you when I first started. And when I first started, all three of you guys only sold one model.
Mm-hmm.
All three of you only picked one lane. And
Yep.
now all three of people, those three same people sell multiple different models. And I think that's definitely a thing now. I would think before you had a lot less interaction without YouTube or Instagram and you weren't seeing what was working. But for example, everyone sells Supreme now in the reselling community because the drops and what to buy are public. So we have 10,000 people that are saying buy this shirt for this price to resell at this price. Then you have people who have never resold a hype item before that are now jumping on that wagon. You have people like yourself who might dabble in women's clothing. I mean, you just all over the map now. When you discover a profitable niche, all of us are looking for the arbitrage.
Yep.
And I think it's very interesting now. And that just goes to show I don't think you need a different store unless you're doing marketing specifically for Luke's men's clothing emporium, so you can't have any home goods. But
unless you're doing paid marketing, like driving traffic to a niche item, I mean, you don't need a different eBay store.
and even those stores, Phoenix Trading Company has 100,000 used items, right? And I go in their store, there's coffee makers and jewelry and spoons. Like that's not related to plus size clothing, but they found it and they threw it on their store and it does just fine. So
yeah, that's a good point.
Also, Stacy's boycotting white photos. I don't think Luke doesn't use white photos. I don't use white photos. It's not necessary.
No, I mean, so we talked about this when they first came out with that whole announcement, and it's interesting to me because I've been going through my head, how the heck will they be able to punish in their algorithm a white background? Because now, so if you think about this, now you have to define, this is the way the algorithms work, you have to define a set pixel quality and color that defines white. And then you have to exclude and punish all listings that don't fall into that. Well, how many different shades of white are there with lighting? So are they going through and capturing, 7,000 shades of white that appear white based on someone's, and then they're excluding every other color spectrum out there in the background of an item? Like, I don't know. I understand why they want to do it because they have that new feature of the searchable picture, right? Kind of that augmented reality / search. I totally get why they want it, but I just don't know how they can enforce it and punish. I get all the other ways they can punish your listings, and I say punish, it's really the wrong connotation, right? They're improving the search of their platform. Punish is actually a really bad adjective for that, but it's just like that's one I just don't buy, and like maybe I'm wrong, and maybe my listings will plummet, but I like the differentiation still. I may switch to the white just for a clean process standpoint in the future, but right now I don't know. How do you feel about it? Like I actually haven't talked about this in a while.
I have searched my items on Google, just like Stacy's mentioning right now, and found them. I use a wood background, and I find my items using the Google Shopping. But that doesn't mean. That's why it's hard to, like our original topic, like dealing with eBay and Amazon's constant changes. I think Google's algorithm is very smart. They're going to be able to read the item on any background.
Yeah.
Like they're designing machine learning so that you can take a picture of something in the wild, and it will tell you what it's for sale in online, right? So if you take and there is no white background in real life.
Right.
Google's computer is very smart. Now, here's the thing: the opposite end is eBay going to not send your listing at the end of the day to Google because there's a watermark or because there's not a white background. Difficult to enforce. It's definitely true that it matters. We just don't know what it matters exactly. And most of the white backgrounds I see are not white.
That's my point, right? I feel like if you're going to enforce a standard like that, the only way to enforce it is to supply. They have to supply the standards on how to photo it, right? They have to supply the lighting standards, and they have to supply the background standards, and they have to the gradient standard, everything. And like I don't know, that's such a tough one for me that I guess it hasn't been worth the process change. and this topic's talking about evolving, right? This topic's about evolving and change. I'm probably as stubborn as it comes with everything I do, but I never would have charged shipping for anything. You watch all my videos on my channel for anything about shipping, and I would tell you free shipping, free shipping, free shipping, free shipping, and now my entire store charges shipping. Like, you evolve, right? You have to evolve, and you have to be willing to change, otherwise you grow backwards. So I say right now, I'm not changing the white background, but 2 months from now, my store plummets and I find out that's the cause. Guess who's switching to white background? So I don't know. That's just kind of how I feel about it.
I want to make the point also that for Amazon, which does require a white background, has a photo editor built into their program that allows you to remove it the way they want to. So like, instead of leaving it up to you, because there's millions of sellers on Amazon, they just say, use our tool to remove the background. Done. Every single listing is the same. If eBay wanted to really provide white background, they should tell us to use the same tool. That way, okay, now we can all have the correct background. If that makes more people shop on eBay, everyone would do that.
Also, let's go a step further, right? If you could provide a tool that would white out a background for you like that, everyone would list more items, and eBay would make more money because our listing process would be faster.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can go from that other angle, right? Like, if you're going to give a process improvement tip to them is, hey, you want a new process, provide the tool to do it for the sellers, and your listings will go up dramatically on your site, and it'll be in compliance. So it's like a win-win.
Now, I will give a sort of a counter argument on new with tags items. So, for example, if you're selling a brand new pair of cleats, to me, if you take a picture with a white background, it makes you look like a store. If you take a picture of it on the ground, anything except for white background, it's a person. Like, it's not if it's a pure white background, that means it's a store. I'm just gonna assume it's brand new. It's coming in a box. It's not something that somebody bought in an outlet. It's just like a straight up company. But if it's anything but white, I know it's a person that has it, which makes me confident. A couple of things. I think the pictures on not white background, the person has it for sure, so it's in stock, and then also it's probably not inauthentic, because nobody takes pictures of fake items.
Yeah, I mean, now you're touching on this whole stock photo fallacy, right? Is the concern of a buyer looking at something thinking it's a stock photo and they're going to get a different item, or they're going to get something not represented in the picture. Granted, feedback does help erase some of those doubts. I mean, there's all those different things, but I think that's a really good point you make, is when you see the unique background, you know for sure the seller took the time to stage the item, which means you know that what you're seeing is what you're getting, and they buy with a lot more confidence. So yeah, I totally agree. I mean, my LL Bean stuff, on almost every way, because I was testing the other night, I searched for the different LL Bean genres that I'm selling. I'm on the first page for all of them, and my wood grain background is there as a differentiator. And I love that. Like, I love that happens. Like, I cannot come up with a scenario in my head where those being a white background makes me a better seller and a better sell through for those items. Like, I can't come up with a scenario.
Yep. Now, I do think that eBay will probably punish a low quality picture. I can see that.
For sure.
eBay has to pay to send it to Google. Google's not allowing them to do it for free, and they're one of the largest advertisers, and so is Amazon. So if you want to reduce your expense as a corporation, you're going to send the best listings to Google so that they convert. I can see that. I can also see from my end that I would push the more expensive items to Google.
Yeah.
Why would you spend money pushing a $1 free shipping item? But go ahead.
No, so I totally agree. I'm echoing everything you're saying. On top of it, like, why would they push anything that doesn't have a lot of views? Like, let's talk about view count. Right? Like, if you are going to push from an analytical standpoint, you're going to push stuff and pay to push it from eBay's perspective. You're going to push stuff that has tons of views. Why would you push genre? Why would you even push a genre that doesn't have a lot of views? Let's go that step further. Why would I push a niche that has very little views or traction?
Manchu is asking, what kind of camera do you use? I use a Panasonic Lumix that takes in the 1-to-1 ratio, so that I don't have to edit photos straight up. And I think the minimum pixels is 800 by 800.
I use an ever-evolving iPhone, and it is still just as good as before.
For sure. Ever-evolving iPhone is great. Also, the touchscreen is key. I think that if you're going to get a camera and invest, an iPhone, in my opinion, is an investment. You can adjust the brightness on the screen of an iPhone, which is fantastic. I think that's the important part, because if you take a picture with an iPhone, you will see that because of the way the camera is designed, a close-up shot and a full-on shot will be slightly different in color. Not a huge deal, but it's slightly different.
Yeah. I just saw someone said they got their account suspended. Really sorry to hear that. I think Emmanuel said it. Yeah, that's something. We should do a show topic on this, because just some other time. But like, I've never had my store suspended. Knock on wood. I'm sure at some point I will. Especially as I get more into bulk buying. I feel like when you're bulk buying and you're buying shelf pulls and things like that, you open yourself up to a lot more of that for sure. And just you reference Ryan and Allie from Rally Roots, like same thing. Like they buy a lot of different bulk and wholesale lots, and kind of opens you up a little more to selling products you shouldn't sell or things like that. But it's amazing to me. I think that scenario is going to become more and more prevalent as we move forward with eBay. I think you're going to see a lot more suspensions for sellers not falling into the confines of what they're looking for. I don't think like on white photos, but I think that I can even see them getting to a point where if your seller standards get below a certain point, that they temporarily suspend it to try to correct that, especially with guaranteed delivery. I can definitely see with shipping time, printing labels on time, getting all that. Like I can see in the next year and a half, them starting to crack down on that and using suspensions as a way to do it.
One thing that I want to go over with suspensions, guys, is you're going to get an unknown suspension for 7 days if you try to communicate with a buyer
Yes.
outside of eBay. So you get to, like, if someone's like, hey, can I get a discount through PayPal? And you answer, sure, send me your PayPal address or something. You may get a 7-day ban. They may not tell you. So if you're not having any sales, it's possible they may have accidentally or intentionally blocked your account for a few days. So be careful. I think it's extremely annoying that every single time I send a message to a customer, it says you may be charged fees if you try to conduct business outside of eBay. I think that is like the opposite of what Nordstrom does, which is they treat people like they're not going to steal.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what's made them super successful. But they're literally telling every seller, don't do something against our policy. I think that is a horrible way to treat your sellers.
I think it's a terrible approach in an environment where tons of other options are popping up. I think that is an awful idea for eBay when you have all these different platforms. And one of your tips earlier, right, was learning other platforms, learning how to sell on them. And it's like they're trying to combat that by threatening sellers who are conducting sales on other platforms or other ways. It's just like, man, like I don't know. This day and age with the internet and options, I just feel like that's a really bad approach.
Absolutely. You gotta, I mean, and this is, Poshmark and Amazon are crushing, and eBay's been in decline for 5 straight years. So it's tough. Like I like eBay the most. It's definitely the most fun. But also you want to attract the most sellers, then you get the most buyers.
Yep.
That's how I feel. I feel like when Uber allowed everyone to become a driver, they got all the passengers. Of course, it made it so the individual drivers didn't make as much. Mm-hmm. But overall, you can argue that the traffic was better overall, and so they could have more business. I don't know. I prefer inviting more sellers, even though it's more competition.
I mean, I wish personally that they would encourage cross posting, right? If they became the first platform that enabled sellers to sell on all platforms, like they put the investment and they put the the R&A dollars into, we're going to become the first platform that allows you to cross post, and we're going to enable you and provide you the ability to cross post. Not just we're going to allow it, we're going to give you the platform and the tools so that you can cross post on every platform. They are now going to draw traffic from every single platform out there to their native platform. Like
Absolutely.
That would be the best way if they want to deliver a crippling blow to all the people popping up trying to pull and share from them. Like just become the first person to allow them to cross post on every place, and they enable it. Like a couple clicks. Like, hey, we will customize your listing for you. Give us your account name on these ones. Configure it with your eBay account, and when you list your item here, it'll list out there.
You know what's unbelievable to me is Bonanza, a company that no one cares about, is able to pull all your listings from eBay and post it on their platform for no fee. Yeah. Like, how is that possible? But you can get Amazon or from eBay to Poshmark. But Bonanza, which nobody cares about, like if you name your top 5 e-commerce platforms, Bonanza would never make it. Yet they figured out the API to do it. And I don't even mind that. Like people complain, oh, I have to go back to eBay and end my listing. I don't complain because it's a free sale. I can just go back and end it really quick. It's not like it happens that often. I would love that problem.
Mhm. Yeah, I would love to have so many sales on all the different platforms that I can't figure out where to end it. That'd be a fantastic problem.
That's a fantastic problem. I like it. And of course, it will get sophisticated enough. I mean, like a Unicommerce site that posted everywhere. I would love it. And I can't figure out why the other websites design a site that automatically posted on the Poshmark and automatically shared it. 100% of eBay buyers would sign up for it. So I don't know. There's got to be a way to do it if Bonanza was able to do it. Almost Bonanza is like the cousin of the founder of eBay or something, and he gets special rights to the API.
I think it's naive if people think that moving forward the next like half decade, you will not move towards a totally cross-platforming environment. Like with the exception of Amazon, because they have such a dominant place in the marketplace, and they're not selling they're selling based on time, right? Amazon sells on time. That's what they do. Where the other platforms sell on price and value, Amazon sells on times. But I can see all the other non-Amazon platforms being able to cross-sell. I mean, there's no way you can protect it. Like there's just no way. Like to me, there's no way that in the next couple of years, someone intelligent is going to come along who's able to cross-platform all of them. And
there's rumors that Amazon is going to buy Nordstrom, and but the only issue is that Nordstrom is like privately owned, and do they really want to sell out to the big monster? I don't know. But the thing is, they're not. I thought they were going to buy Target, but it makes more sense for them to buy companies that are based on customer service because they don't want to compete on price.
Yeah, I mean, Amazon's never been a compete on price platform, really. I mean, they've always been a compete on time and value. And I mean, Alexa, like us. I mean, I feel like I'm re-quoting Gary Vee here, so let me just give original credit. But like, he's right when he talks about all the time. Like, Alexa is saving time. Amazon continues to compete on time, and voice is the next time saver. And so, yeah, you're dead on. Like, I mean, why compete on price when you don't have to? Right?
Yeah, you don't have to. You can just.
Yeah, I mean, think about it as a consumer. We have like 2 minutes left. I think one of the funniest things is, as a consumer, we will spend dollars to save time because I will spend dollars to save on my time because I'm lazy before I will save those dollars for something that actually is rational and makes sense. I do that all the time, every day. I mean, like you pick time over something of value all the time.
This is a great point. Ria's mentioning Facebook Marketplace. You can list up to 10 selling groups in one listing. Absolutely true. Facebook and Instagram marketplaces are massive, and there's no fees, and you actually know the person, so that community aspect is amazing.
Yeah, it comes back to repeatable processes, though. I mean, I think that's why those little niche groups haven't taken off farther than they have. Like from a reseller standpoint, is it comes back to repeatable process. eBay allows a platform for a repeatable process. Like
that's right. No, it's so interesting, and that's why Amazon. More people are rich on Amazon because it's predictable. They give you the rank. You can kind of guess how long things are going to take to sell.
Yeah, it's data driven. It's repeatable. Like people want predictable and repeatable. That's how you scale. That's
true. Imagine on eBay if it told you this is going to take 45 days to sell at this price. That would be fantastic to know. 45 days or less.
Yeah, probably they can't do that.
And what that would allow you to do is basically borrow capital at certain amounts, or order different supply things. And so, yeah, I just want to shout out another thing for Hustlebee, who came on my show a couple of days ago and talked about working capital loan. The majority of people were saying that borrowing money to buy inventory is a bad idea. A lot of people were saying that, but I think that the most legitimate argument against PayPal Capital, this is my final thought for the day, is that it's just expensive money compared to other forms of borrowing. And for me, that's the best argument against working capital, is if you pay back 12% on your money in 3 months, that's a ridiculous API that you're paying. APR.
Yeah, it's almost like a shark type loan. It's
right.
I mean, it's interesting. Like, I think there are times where it's appropriate, and I would love to have, again, another show topic. We need to be writing these.
Another show topic. Yeah.
Another show topic. But yeah, I think there are so many other easier ways to finance for free money. I think there are a lot of finance free options, and maybe, that could be a show topic, because I mean, any investment I've made in my business, I've financed for free thus far. So
Yeah. Very cool. All right, guys. Well, it's the top of the hour. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you guys have any questions, email us at 10k@gmail.com. Or wait, how do people get in contact with you, Luke?
Just check out my YouTube channel, Endless Entrepreneurs, or on Instagram. I respond to messages usually pretty quickly. I'm getting back to normal schedule, so I'm getting back to people pretty fast. Direct message on Instagram is the best way to get in touch with me.
Awesome, guys. Everyone have a great one. We'll see you guys next week.
Adios.